Today we're going to talk about acquisition costs for laundromats. Acquisition costs are different than income and expenses. Income and expenses are those which are the day-to-day, month-to-month incomes and expenses associated with operating a laundromat. Acquisition costs are those costs specific to acquiring the laundromat. Of course, the largest acquisition cost is the purchase price itself, and purchase prices for laundromats are generally in the 3 to 5x multiple. And we'll cover that in a subsequent video on how that valuation of 3 to 5x actually works and how sellers come to the multiple that they're going to use. I have found often that sellers believe that their laundromats are worth far more than the multiples would suggest, but that's a story for another day. The next few expenses for acquisition costs, due diligence. And due diligence, I associate those costs with having professionals come in and look at the machinery that's there, the washers and the dryers, to determine what kind of upcoming maintenance would be required for them, what their value perhaps is, and have there been any fixes to the machines that have not been done properly and are going to cost you down the road. Why that matters is because if you understand that, one, you're going into a deal knowing what's there, and second, you can use that as leverage to revise the price of the laundromat. Additionally to due diligence, you also want to have an HVAC specialist come in and take a look at the air conditioner and the heating system. Those are pretty big items, and depending on the lease agreement and the lease structure that you have or the current seller has with the property owner, the laundromat space, the owner of that space or renter, leaser of that space, may be responsible for operation and upkeep and maintenance of the air conditioner and heater and even the roof. So it's something to keep in mind and something to look at in the lease itself is who's responsible for those HVAC, AC units, and the roof. The next acquisition cost is pretty obvious. It's the legal cost. And depending on how you are coming into the investment of the laundromat, you may already have a corporation that you're going to purchase the laundromat under, and the corporation is going to own the laundromat, or you may already have a correction, or you may need to have a corporation set up, and that corporation is set up by the lawyer. So there's a cost associated with that corporation. There's also the cost associated with the closing costs and the lawyers going back and forth with their documentation. I don't know what exactly that is, but it's required and that can vary. So that depends, the price on that depends on the market you're in. I budget $2,000 to $3,000 for that. And I'm in Ontario, so you would have to revise it depending on where you are. The next item is insurance. Insurance varies depending on the size of the store, the number of units, and when I say units, I mean the number of washers and dryers and their age and replacement costs. All those factors go into the insurance. And why I'm calling insurance an acquisition cost is because it's something you have to pay upfront. All these acquisition costs you have to pay them upfront to operate the store or just do the due diligence before you even close on the store. Okay. The next item is you want to have a budget item for salaries. If the laundromat is attended, you, one, need to know what the current staff is being paid and what their hours are and how are those hours being tracked and how is payment being made. Although the laundromat will obviously generate revenues on day one, it may take a few months, a few weeks before you have a critical mass of revenue that you're able to have collected in the bank to cover the salary expenses. Because it also depends on what time of the year you close on the laundromat, and some months are slow and some months are busy. This one was a bit of a surprise to me, and it caught me the first time, and that is of lease deposits. For commercial leases, uh, you have to have a pretty sizable lease deposit, and depending on the landlord or the property management company, those lease deposits can be the equivalent of 2 months worth of lease payments, or 3 months, or perhaps even more. So you want to understand what that lease deposit is, and if it's not in the disclosure documents from the seller, you need to ask for that, because depending on the size of the lease or the rental payment each month, that deposit can be a substantial sum. Next item for acquisition costs, and this is not necessarily a given, but it's general renovations and repair. And although some of these general renovations and repair can be deferred further out, some of them you may want to do sooner than later. And those, in my opinion, generally are any repairs or renovations that need to be done to the machines themselves, because the machines make you money. So you want to make sure that those are in operational condition at all times. And the next item would be anything that is cosmetic. Cosmetic to me includes paint, chips, any holes, and even lighting. Lighting makes a huge difference in your store. It contributes to the visual identity of it being a clean, bright space, and it also contributes to a sense of safety. I know in the area that we're in, although it's a pretty safe location, I will get calls from women, and they will ask me, is the plaza busy? Is it well lit? And I'm proud to say that it is a very well lit space, and a large part of why I decided to go a little bit extra with my lighting was because of the sense of safety and security that I wanted my customers to have. And I'm fortunate I have 2 walls of windows. I'm in a corner unit, so visibility is excellent, and having lights on, very bright lights, really showcases your space. So anybody driving by, they cannot miss it. The next item is you need to be able to have some cash on hand to pay, and it's not a big amount, but to pay for any laundry products that the seller has in their vending machine or in stock. And that's those little vended, they call them vended soap products, either detergent, softener, bags, anything like that, because you want to buy those products off the seller. They're not included in the sale price. The other item related to that is the change that is in the change machine. And depending on how many change machines and how much changes in the hoppers of the change machine, that could be up to a few $1,000s in change that you are essentially buying from the seller. Okay, I hope that helps. And this is going to be part of a series of acquiring, running, and operating laundromats. And obviously the first part of doing that is to acquire a laundromat. So the acquisition costs that I covered today will hopefully help you be better prepared as you start looking at acquiring your own laundromat. Thanks, and subscribe.